In a modest South African township classroom during daylight, we see a 13-year-old South African girl of Zulu heritage seated alone at a wooden desk, head bowed over her books. Her round face and expressive dark brown eyes are downcast, conveying quiet sadness and withdrawal. Once cheerful, she now seems weighed down by something unseen. The 32-year-old South African female teacher, with a heart-shaped face and hair in a neat bun, leans toward the 13-year-old South African girl of Zulu heritage at break time. Wearing a knee-length skirt and pastel blouse, the teacher's compassionate gaze meets the girl's downturned eyes. Although surrounded by blurred classmates, there is a moment of tender concern as the teacher prepares to speak. In the school corridor, the 13-year-old South African girl of Zulu heritage walks away, tears welling in her eyes, shoulders slightly hunched. Behind her stands the 32-year-old South African female teacher, watching with a heavy heart. The corridor's muted light and bulletin boards fade into the background as worry looms over this quiet departure. Outside a modest township home in late afternoon light, the 35-year-old South African Nguni mother prepares to leave for her spaza shop. The 13-year-old South African girl of Zulu heritage stands at the gate, watching with a mixture of hope and subtle unease. The scene feels ordinary yet hints at an unspoken worry beneath the warm evening glow. Inside the hallway after school, the 13-year-old South African girl of Zulu heritage hesitates at the entrance. A 40-year-old South African man with a square jaw and tense posture approaches under the guise of care. Though his voice seems soft, his presence casts a shadow of unease in the dim interior light. In the small bedroom, the 40-year-old South African man sits too close to the 13-year-old South African girl of Zulu heritage, offering help with homework. His invasive body language makes the girl shrink back, confusion and shame on her round face. Sparse room details and muted lighting amplify the tension of this moment. Back at school, the 32-year-old South African female teacher notices bruises on the 13-year-old South African girl of Zulu heritage's arms. The girl looks down, tears in her dark brown eyes. The classroom around them blurs, focusing on the teacher's worried expression and the girl's silent plea. On an early Saturday morning outside the township home, the 35-year-old South African Nguni mother steps out for the market, wearing casual trousers and a headscarf. The 13-year-old South African girl of Zulu heritage remains inside the yard. Morning light is peaceful, yet an undercurrent of unease lingers. In the back room of the home, the 40-year-old South African man leads the 13-year-old South African girl of Zulu heritage into a small storage area under the pretense of organizing clothes. The girl's fearful expression and the dim interior light heighten the sense that something is very wrong. Suddenly, the door bursts open. The 35-year-old South African Nguni mother, wearing a colorful print dress and headscarf, stands frozen in shock and disbelief. The 40-year-old South African man recoils, trying to cover himself, while the 13-year-old South African girl of Zulu heritage trembles. The modest room's atmosphere cracks with this confrontation. In the living room, the 35-year-old South African Nguni mother holds the 13-year-old South African girl of Zulu heritage protectively. Neighbors gather at the doorway, a 50-year-old South African pastor in a clerical shirt and a 55-year-old South African community elder woman wearing a head wrap rush in, expressions etched with horror and concern. Natural daylight illuminates this scene of shock and solidarity. Inside a simple community hall under a single bare bulb in early evening, chairs form a circle. In the center sits the 40-year-old South African man, restrained and head bowed in shame. The 35-year-old South African Nguni mother holds the 13-year-old South African girl of Zulu heritage's hand. Around them stand the 32-year-old South African female teacher, the 50-year-old South African pastor, the 55-year-old South African community elder woman, and other women aged 45 to 65 in traditional attire, faces a mixture of anger and sorrow as they prepare to decide next steps. A close-up on the 55-year-old South African community elder woman in a bright patterned skirt and matching head wrap as she addresses the circle with a firm but compassionate tone. The mother, teacher, and pastor listen with grave expressions. The dim indoor light underscores the gravity of their words. Outside, the 35-year-old South African Nguni mother and the 13-year-old South African girl of Zulu heritage walk toward a relative's house, carrying a small bag. Neighbors, community women of varied ages, stand by, offering comfort. In a modest counseling room, the 13-year-old South African girl of Zulu heritage sits across from a 28-year-old South African female counselor in tailored trousers. Close up in therapy, the 13-year-old South African girl of Zulu heritage speaks quietly, her expression a mix of anger and relief. The 35-year-old South African Nguni mother sits nearby, offering a supportive gaze. The counselor nods empathetically. This moment marks the start of healing. In the community hall, the 35-year-old South African Nguni mother sits among a circle of 45 to 65-year-old South African women in very traditional attire. They share a simple meal or refreshments on a small table, some gently touch her shoulder. Outside, the 50-year-old South African pastor hands a small donation envelope or paperwork to the 35-year-old South African Nguni mother, with the 32-year-old South African female teacher and counselor nearby. The Township street or community hall entrance in daylight frames hopeful expressions. This scene shows the community rallying to cover therapy costs and practical needs. Outside a magistrate's court building in a South African town, the 35-year-old South African Nguni mother and the 13-year-old South African girl of Zulu heritage stand with the 32-year-old South African female teacher and the 50-year-old South African pastor. They show relief and cautious hope as the court signage marks this turning point. Justice is about to be served. Inside the courtroom, the 40-year-old South African man sits before security personnel. The 35-year-old South African Nguni mother and 13-year-old girl sit together, accompanied by the teacher or counselor. As the verdict is delivered, their solemn faces shift toward relief. This respectful depiction focuses on the moment of justice without graphic detail. Back outside, the mother and daughter walk toward their home under brighter daylight, holding hands. Neighbors, community women, wave support in the background. A locked gate hints at enhanced security. Their posture and expressions reflect cautious optimism as they return to life rebuilt. In the classroom after returning, the 13-year-old South African girl of Zulu heritage participates in class activities, gently smiling among classmates. The 32-year-old South African female teacher watches with a warm, encouraging expression. Bright, lively surroundings emphasize restored normalcy and the girl's renewed confidence. Under a jacaranda tree near the community hall or inside a school hall, the teenage South African girl of Zulu heritage, now about 15 years old, with maturing round face, dark brown eyes, and longer braids, stands confidently and addressing a small group of peers. In smart casual school attire, her posture and voice reflect the strength she's gained from her journey. A close-up of the teenage South African girl of Zulu heritage speaking to peers, compassionate expression, gentle gestures. In the softly blurred background, hints of posters reading "Speak Up" or "Child Safety" underscore her advocacy. Her voice carries authority born from experience. Remember to subscribe to this channel for more amazing African folktales and stories in the coming days.